It is gonna be a long one. It's gonna be a long one. I'm gonna try to not go too much overboard though, to be honest. Um I'm gonna try not to go. I'm trying not to go too overboard with my review for the show to not make it like a long one. But it will be long. At least 30 minutes, so strap in. Okay? Alright. The Expanse. In some ways, I'm a little sad that the show ended. That I'm done with The Expanse. In some ways. And usually that happens. You know, it's not a like a iffy thing, or however you want to put it. Usually that happens, but if it's a good show, a great show, I'm usually very sad, right? I'm usually very sad, or at least a little sad when the show ends, because especially when shows do it like this, and I know that it's a conclusion that I'm happy with, right? Usually I'm a little sad about it, because I'm just like, man, I'm probably gonna never watch this show again for a long time, and don't get me wrong, this show has very high rewatchability, right? Very high on the scale for me, not 10 out of 10, which is one of the things that I use to review shows. All right, let me preface this. My review. Let me preface it by saying one thing to you guys. This is a subjective review. This is my feeling about it. This is all reviews. No matter how much we try to be objective as much as possible about the show, right? It's still in your opinion. It's still in my opinion, right? So it remains, in my opinion, majority of reviews out there are subjective. It's kind of like when people tell you that something is a masterpiece, and then you watch it or review it and you're like, no, this is not it's close to being a masterpiece, but you can find things here and there that is wrong with it, right? So if this is your first time hearing one of my reviews after I end the show, just understand that this is coming from a place of what I use to review shows, as I've said in previous episodes about my reviews, as well as I stated, to prepare you guys, right? Me giving a show a 10 out of 10 is not to say that it's perfect. It's just that the three things that I use to judge a show was done to perfection. If the show on a whole, right? The show on a whole is not perfect. Okay? So, it may be perfect for you, and that's why I'm saying it's subjective to what I use. Now, overall, from an objective point of view, the show is not perfect. It's not perfect, right? I think that things could have been fleshed out a little bit more. That's not to take away anything from what they did, but it could have been fleshed out a little bit more, especially in the final season. And that's the only nitpick that I have, because when I found out that it was only 6 episodes, at the end of episode 5 of season 6, I was like, how are they going to wrap this up in one episode? And they did. They did an excellent job of doing that. But I think they could have fleshed things out. At the very least, I think they could have, not me, but I think the showrunners could have given us a hint. I know all the things that they were showing in the first of all the episodes for this season was kind of like the future of the Expanse, but I think they could have fleshed that out a little bit more as to where that was going. You get what I'm saying? because in my opinion, I can take all of that out of season 6 and it wouldn't mean anything. You get what I'm saying? You could take all of that, other than the fact that what's his name? I can't even remember his name right now. That showed up and we're like, oh, that's where he is. It's not Sadavir. Sadavir is in prison. Probably dead. So I just want you guys to understand, just overall, how I feel about the series. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things. I just preface it by saying that don't take anything that I say to heart too much. This is just my opinion. You don't have to feel the same way. Okay? You don't have, and as I said, I will be discussing the controversies that I noticed that is going on YouTube and all these different things, and all the people have different opinions about different things, and that's okay, right? You can have civil discourse about these things. So let me tell you guys the 3 things that I use to review shows. Okay, one of them is rewatchability. The second one is audio visual, meaning cinematography, and music or score, however you want to do that, you know, whatever you want to call it, right? There's different names for it in TV land, right? And also story, right? And I've already told you guys that the show is a 10 out of 10. Every single one of these categories that I use, they hit them on point. They did all of them well. Let's talk about them individually now that you know what those are. Okay, I will talk about story last because that's always the longest part to review, where I talk about the characters, the story that was told, and overall how I felt while watching the show. Right? I'll talk about that last. This show, rewatchability, is a 10 out of 10 for me because I think if I don't take the show up, right? If I don't take this show up years down the line and watch it again, more than likely I'm going to start watching other people watch this show on YouTube to see what their reaction was to the show. So eventually I'm going to watch it over and over again, if it's even just for that. If I don't take it up by myself to watch it later on down the line, more than likely I'm going to be doing what you guys are doing now. So that counts in rewatchability, right? Which is, it's not every show that I've watched in the past that I go back and see and watch other people's reaction of it. It is not. It's very few shows that I actually watch, that I react to on YouTube, that I go and watch other people watch it. And for those shows, it's usually I give the rewatchability a very low score, because some things are just not meant to be watched over and over again. But hey, if you love it that much, by all means, that's on you. But for me, I know the shows that I will go back and watch because of the moments, the story. You want to see how other people react to it. You want to sit your girl down and be like, hey, watch this show. I'll watch it with you. Whatever the situation is, you tell family members about it, right? That's how it is. So rewatchability is a 10 out of 10 for me. I do see myself possibly going back and watch this on my own, but more than likely I will be watching other people's reaction off this show. So rewatchability is a 10 out of 10. See, quick, easy, done with that. Audio visual. The reason why I'm smiling about this, because the reason why I'm talking about this is because I've actually listened to the soundtrack of this, and this is not something I do willy-nilly. I have an extensive background in music. I talk about music. As a matter of fact, I started my when I just started doing YouTube, music reactions was the first thing that I did, right? Because I was drawn to it. I was reviewing rap music, all sorts of different music I was doing at the time. A lot of people don't know this because if you go back to my original channel, that was shadow banned, right? If you go back to that channel, that was shadow banned, right? It's music. Then I started doing TV shows, and then anime was thrown into the mix, and it, anime blew up the channel pretty much. First TV show that I reacted to was Game of Thrones. Those reactions are not even there anymore because HBO had hit the channel with copyright strikes and almost lost the channel because of that. But that's not the reason why the channel got shadow banned. I don't know why it got shadow banned, honestly. I have no idea. But that's the reason why we're here now on this channel here, because I had to create a different channel because my entire channel was being just pushed down into the algorithm. Till to this day, it's still happening. I can't get it out, even though the channel is like sending out notifications again. It's still not where it's supposed to be. 7,000 subscribers. Can't move. Can't do anything with it. But the reason why I mention that is because I take music really seriously, and especially when it comes on to shows. In certain shows, if you've been around this channel long enough, you'll know that for certain shows, I usually talk about what the music represents, the story that the music alone is telling, and all of these different things is very important to what you're doing. You have to make it fit. Music is extremely important in whatever you're watching, if you're going to have music at all. Even silence is a part of the score, right? So it has to be in moments where it is appropriate. You get what I'm saying? So I listen to the soundtrack, something that I don't do for many shows. I listen to the soundtrack because I really love the opening theme. The opening theme for this show is really good. And all the other battle themes, all these different things that happen throughout the show was just done to so much perfection, right? I didn't look at, the person that composed most of the score or whatever that was in charge of composing the scores and everything for this show. But I know I listened to it. And when I say they couldn't have chosen anything better, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it could have been better. Like every soundtrack for this show was it was a chef's kiss. You know what I'm saying? It was like, it fits, the moments, everything just fits together like a glue. And I'm trying to describe this in layman terms because I know not everybody has, the musical acumen, if you will, right? I don't want to use complicated words to describe music and stuff like that. When I used to review music, not necessarily that I had a piano in front of me or anything like that. I'm versed in different musical instruments as well. So timing is very important in music, not just for the music itself and you playing it, right? But it's also important when it comes on to these shows and when you play music. You get what I'm saying? And when you need to not have any music playing. Background music. You know what I'm saying? The audio engineering of the sounds of the explosions, the battleships, the PDCs, all of these different things. You know what I'm saying? The wiring stuff, when wiring goes awry, the electrical sounds and all of these different things, everything was so on point and nothing felt off, right? The sound was perfect. The visuals, and I've stopped to talk about the visuals a few times in the Expanse, where I talked about the CG that's in the show, especially the battle stuff that they do. I mean, some things you could definitely see, okay, that's not real, right? But it fits in so well. And I think recently somebody commented on one of the early episodes on YouTube, where they were saying that this was done on a sci-fi budget, and sci-fi didn't call this the Expanse, they called it the Expense. I busted out laughing when I read that comment, by the way, because I was just like, that makes a lot of sense, because as I've talked about it before, doing CGI special effects is if not the most expensive thing that studios or that are producing TV shows and movies. It's the most, if it's not the first most expensive thing, it's the second. You know what I'm saying? Especially, what do you think the most expensive part of doing the Marvel movies are? It's the special effects. It's the CGI. Right? It's the most expensive thing in production these days, right? Because it takes a lot of time to do, right? It's actually a good area to study, because as we go into the future, you're gonna find that it's gonna get more demanding, especially in TV shows and movies, to provide special effects. I mean, to give you guys an example, look at what they did for the Batman, right? The Batman, right? The new one, where they had this thing where it was just like the entire city looked so real, but it was actually just a bunch of screens. It was just a bunch of, like, it was like in a circle. Look it up. Okay. When I saw the making of the Batman, I was like, wow, technology is getting crazy. You think that's cheap? You think it's cheap to create something like that? Literally created a set of just screens, right? Blended in with some green screen and stuff like that, of course, or blue screen. It was just amazing. And I have to say, The Expanse as some of the best special effects that I've ever seen on TV, if not the best, because you don't really get really good special effects on TV. I would say the Flash, the one that's on CW, I would say that one had some really good special effects, but you can clearly tell a lot of times. You get what I'm saying? You could clearly tell a lot of times the stuff that was done in front of a green screen, and it wasn't polished. It wasn't as polished as The Expanse. The Expanse, it was so hard to tell a lot of times. Like, if I didn't have an eye for it, a lot of times it would definitely trick me to think that all this is taken care, all of this was filmed in actual space. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't know any better. Right? So I can tell when there were sets that were set up, you know, like inside of the Rocinante and stuff like that. Those were obviously sets that were set up, you know, that were created. But the space battles, all of that stuff, the showing the ships in orbit and stuff like that, that's all CGI created. Stuff that they were showing, like when they were at Tycho and you saw all the crates. Remember the FedEx container? Right? Remember the FedEx container? That product placement was so weird. But it is what it is. I guess FedEx survived all these years, right? That was awesome. But you can tell, you know what I'm saying? If you have a keen eye, I mean, your brain is going to tell you that, you know, if you have, you know, enough knowledge to know that this stuff is not taking place in actual space. It wasn't filmed in space. We all know this. We're not idiots. But I'm saying the CGI looks so real that brings you into the world of and immerse you so much that makes your brain believe it's real. That's how good the CGI was. Is you can get lost in this world that they're creating here with the world building for the show. So the visuals was definitely on point. I love the wardrobe as well. It fits. It's one of the things that, for the majority of time, Hollywood doesn't miss. You get what I'm saying? They really do some research to see what would fit, what would not, what looks regular, what does not, all these different things, and it just makes sense. So visual and audio gets a 10 out of 10 from me. I have no qualms with it. It was brilliantly done. A+. Now we get to the meat of the matter, the story. And as I said, the story deal, I'm going to be talking about characters individually. I'm going to be talking about the story surrounding the characters. I'm going to be talking about those things, just those things specifically. Character development, all that good stuff. So the first thing I want to overall go over before I dive too deep into the characters differently or separately is the overall story for the Expanse. Right? This concerns world building as well, in my opinion, and I think they built the world very well. You have to have a lot of patience. As I said, during season 1, there were times that there were lulls, but since the episodes have been coming out on YouTube, people has been telling me, hey, the season didn't end until midway through season 2. That was like the end of the prologue, something like that in the books, right? So overall, when it comes on to the story and the overarching the story that they were trying to tell, of course we didn't get a conclusion to the entire thing at the end of this season here, season 6, episode 6, but it's telling that this might come back in the future. I wish they have given us more to look forward to on that end. I wish they had, because the proto-molecule is still alive and well, and there's no conclusion to that except for this dude that told Marco to go fuck himself. Other than that, everything else was done very, very well. And when we're talking about telling a story over six seasons and seeing what the characters have to go through, just dealing with all of these things that is happening. We got the political point of view. I don't want to lose too much plosives, but the political point of view that happened in this show, and I've talked about it extensively, after some episodes way back, about how I feel. I love political intrigue. Even though I don't have much political interest in real life, I love to see it in TV shows to see how they do it and what they were trying to portray. We have three factions, right? Not talking about the Belter factions by themselves, but overall 3 factions in the show that was against each other, if you will. We had the Belters, we had the Martians, and the Earthers, right? There was some clear racism going on, right? Which midway through, I was asking myself, is this really necessary, right? Is this really necessary? Because I was thinking about it from the lens of just how I've always said, because I'm a pacifist at heart, right? I want to see humans get along. Unfortunately, that's not the majority's. It's not humans' proclivity. I'm messing up my words now. Let me use an easier word to pronounce so I don't sound stupid. It's not in humans' nature to get along with each other. It's really not the majority, because if it was, then we would have a more peaceful world, right? Even us just here on Earth, we would have a more peaceful world. But because decisions have to be made from the head, then you have the people under that to complain and say, oh, the government is this and the government is that and they're not doing this and they're not doing that. And there's always going to be complaint because everything is never going to be perfect. So you always going to have somebody that's pushing against that grain. You're never going to have people be like, well, they doing pretty good. You know, you're going to have those people, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, you're always going to have the majority always protesting in the street. Right? So I just wish that we all could just get along. I know it's very cliche. I know it's very cliche for anybody to come on here and say that, but I really do wish that. I wish that I could see my fellow man and we could just be okay. We might have a difference in opinion, and that's okay too. But at the end of the day, we want to see human beings strive and be great, right? And we can all wish that the killing would stop. We can all wish that all these bad things in the world would just go away, right? But because of the nature of man, right? Because of the nature of man, that is never going to happen. I'm a religious man. Well, I'm not religious. I believe in a higher power, which is God. All right. This is what I believe in. So until Jesus comes back, I don't want to preach to you guys. I don't take this as preaching, but I'm just saying until Jesus comes back. If you don't believe it, you should, but cool. As I said, not trying to turn this into a sermon. But I believe that when it comes on to how we deal with each other, I think that you just got to treat your fellow man as how you would want to be treated. And most people just don't think like that. And it's unfortunate that I think that a lot of people do believe in the good of mankind. They believe in it, but they don't do the things that will benefit mankind, right? Like you could have a really good conversation with a drug dealer that's selling drugs that are killing people, that they know people are addicted to, and really and truly all they care about is just making a living. But you can have some very profound conversation with this very same drug dealer that has an opinion and an outlook on life. I'm just saying. But guess what? Because of the nature of man, the greed and all these other underlying things, what happens is that that very same drug dealer is gonna look at it and be like, well, I'm just trying to make it. I'm just trying to make a living. And this is the only way I see how. He makes all the excuses in the world, but he could still have a coherent conversation about how good humanity should be while he's doing that. That's just, people are weird like that, right? Now, due to the fact that we are at this moment here, I do want to address one thing that happened. I hashed it out with a few people on Patreon as well. As I said, you know, I had to really go to somebody that's been around the channel for a long time. And I really asked them, it was like, did I say something wrong here? A woman. About the Bobby situation. And I was like, people misunderstand where I was coming from. People called me sexist. All these different names in the comment section. Comments that I've deleted, of course, because I don't tolerate that on my channel. You can attack my argument, but never attack me, right? I won't stand for it. I will tell you what I need to tell you, and I will delete that comment, right? And it's not because I'm afraid or I'm intimidated or I'm a baby or anything like this. You can have your opinion. Just don't attack my character, because at the end of the day, I'm not a sexist. I'm not these things that you're trying to put on me because you misunderstood what I was trying to say, right? I stopped the video when Bobby punched her subordinate, right? And he just fell to the ground. I stopped the video to simply say, hey, I do not like this in anything that I watch. Movies, TV show, I don't like seeing it because it's very unrealistic and it takes me out of my immersion when I'm watching stuff. It really does, because in my head, that's just not happening. You get what I'm saying? In my head, it's just not happening. It's not something that you see all the time. I know some people were saying you can find a bunch of videos of women beating up women beating men. In what capacity? There's context to things. In what capacity? In a competition environment? Because that doesn't happen in a competition environment. It does not happen, right? It doesn't happen. And if you see it, usually if you see a video like that, what happens is that that video is of a trans woman competing against another man, right? I looked it up and I really couldn't find like 100 videos in the search history, and every time you see a woman trying to beat a man in anything, not anything. That was a figure of speech, but that's not what I meant. In any type of competitive sport or anything like that, they're usually losing. They're usually losing. So the context really does matter. Now, as I've stated before, if Bobby, and now follow me, don't stray, follow me. If Bobby was to go up against, say, somebody even a little bit shorter than her, and all of these different things, maybe weigh a little bit less than her, and all of these different things in real life, I would give her a puncher's chance, but I wouldn't put all my money on her. You guys could probably do that, but I guarantee you that 99% of the times you're going to lose that bet. And the reason why you would lose that bet is because men are just physically stronger than women. And it's weird when you see it on TV and these women don't have superpowers. If they have superpowers, cool. That's the world I'm in. That's the immersion, right? And all I was trying to say is that I don't like seeing it because it's like I can't. It's like on the internet, you cannot state these things because people just get mad at you, and all because they're not trying to understand where you're coming from. Some of you did, so I'll give you guys that, right? And I did concede to a lot of the points that you guys were making in the comment section. I did concede to a lot of it. I responded to you guys. I said, you know what I'm saying? With the context that you put in, yes. Some people said Bobby would beat my ass. No, she wouldn't, because me and her, from the description that you guys gave, which is she's 6'1", 220 pounds, I'm the same damn thing. And not because she's trained, she's not going to beat me in a strength contest. If you really look at Bobby in a lot of these, right? First of all, Bobby doesn't have much muscle tone. I wanted to point that out as well. I didn't do it intentionally because I would have been stopping it for nothing. But when you look at Bobby's arms, a lot of times you see her with her beer arms. She doesn't really have a lot of muscle tone, right? She has big arms, but her muscles aren't toned, and you can see that even when she takes stuff up and flexes and stuff like that, you don't really see any muscle tone there. I would have her in that category 100%, right? Plus, I'm a man. We need to stop the cap in society, bro. I'm just saying, I'll give her a puncher's chance. She might be able to sucker punch me, right? And I stated it too, as just like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? She could get a punch. I didn't want to bring this up, but I do talk about the controversy that went on throughout my reactions, so people can get a more clear vision of what I was talking about, right? I wasn't saying that all women are just weak and feeble. I just was stating a fact that I don't like to see when things go against the grain like that, continuously. Like if it's a one-off thing in a show, or maybe it happens like 5 times throughout a 6-season show, I'm not gonna throw a fit about it. Remember, I only talked about that one more time throughout the entire series. It wasn't like I was just on this rant about about the damn thing and everybody just came at me, and I'm like, okay, I'll just wait until the review to address this so people can understand where I was coming from. That's all that was, right? That's all that was. Bobby ended up becoming one of my favorite characters in the show, if not my favorite. I don't even know yet, because it's a serious tie between a lot of these characters. I haven't even started talking about the characters yet. Let's move on. Now that I've addressed that, and I'm sincerely apologizing if anybody took offense to the fact that I said what I said. I was just talking about my personal experience with TV shows that I don't like to see it, because it just takes me out of my immersion with the show, because it's just something that doesn't happen. It's just very, it's too unrealistic. And I know some people would be like, well, that's cool to see, and that's your experience. I was just talking about my experience, but people took it to heart and thinking I'm just talking down on a woman punching a guy in the face. I'm like, that wasn't even the point. I was just like, this just doesn't happen. You don't see this happen often. Okay, so moving forward, let's talk about the characters. Okay, the story, as I said before, when it comes on to the political intrigue, I was very much enjoying that and what it represents, and talking about humans should come together. That happened at the end, close to the end of the season, from my last like 3 episodes, everybody really coming together at the end of season 5, when we had the proper meeting there, of the Belters, Martians, Earthers in the same room, having a meal together, just having a good ball together, and no war. Yes, you're gonna have those people that are side-eyeing because they don't really trust each other. And even at the end of the season, this season, the final episode that we just watched, with the situation going as the way it was going, and still negotiations, it was just like there's still a bother, because I understand where the Belters are coming from. I really do. But all that bravado and all these different things was just not the answer. I think what James did at the end was the right thing to do. It's just up to Kamina now to kind of build that relationship and build that trust, because there's still no trust. It's just that they trusted James. They didn't really trust you, but James put you in the position, and now you're going to have to do what you need to do. It's not about Belters taking over or in charge or anything like that. It's about unity. It's about coming together for a common cause, for peace, right? So I know with her being her, she's going to be good at it. Would have preferred James, don't get me wrong, would have preferred if he had kept the position, but I understand he's got bigger things to deal with in the future. The proto-molecule is still out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Expanse come back. If it's not now, maybe 10 years from now. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Hopefully. Hopefully it comes back at some point. So overall, I enjoyed the story. From when I was saying everybody should come together to deal with the proto-molecule, and that wasn't happening because Mars didn't like Earth don't like Mars, or they don't really like the Belt either. I think they looked at the Belt as just some poor suckers, and it's kind of like how the U.S. treats poor people. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, or those snobby rich people are, when they look down on other people, like they don't mean anything and they just get to do whatever they want. That's how the Earthers comes off to Belters. It's like they look down on them. It's just like, you're trash. Where you series is garbage. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how they view it. So it was just like, it brings me to the point where I think at one point I used the example of you know, this is how black people want to act like they're treated when they're really not. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to put it like that, but it's the truth. I like to talk about the truth. I like to talk about facts. That is how black people act in the United States. They act this victimhood mentality that they act like. Belters were really in that position. You're not. If you get my meaning, you're not. Me, a black man, can sit down here in this chair and make videos and make money off of it. You're not a slave. Wake up. Okay? You're not a slave, black people. Right? You're not in that position anymore. I believe that every single black person, I should say, in this country can make it if they put the work in. If they put the work in. Yes, the neighborhood that you live in is bad. It's corrupted. There's gunshots flying. All these different things. Survive and get out. And I know it's easier said than done. But there's opportunities waiting. Right? People have gotten out. You know what I don't like to see? A lot of these people that get out of the ghetto and they feel like they gotta check in. Like, bro, just stay out of those neighborhoods. What kind of image you're trying to keep up? You make it out, you can't bring the entire hood with you. We all know this, right? Look at all of these. I'll give you guys examples, right? Look at all of these rappers that just bring these entitled people around them, their entourage, right? Look at them. They're getting shot in the street, shot down by rival gangs, and all of these different things because they're on social media talking shit. Dude, just make your money and move on. Right? Just doing ignorant stuff and getting yourself in trouble, going to prison and doing all of these different things. And then when they get on the map, when they get on the mic, right? They want to talk about how the police don't like him. 5-0 is coming. Right? All of these different things. They want to talk about how black people are disenfranchised and all these. Bro, stop the cap, man. For real. Stop the cap. You're literally living in one of the safest countries in the world. Right? Stop it. Right? Ain't no oppression. Not the way how y'all describe it. Ain't no oppression in that way. Have I ever been profiled before? Absolutely. Right? I've been profiled before. I've been called the N-word before. With the R at the end. It has happened to me. I'm not even from here. You get what I'm saying? I don't let it bother me. I just keep pushing. I am not a victim. And I'm not going to let people tell me that I'm a victim. Okay? Now, for the Belters, it was different. They were in a state where they really, you know what I'm saying? From the information that we got, the Earthers were like starving them, we were dying of thirst. Water was rationed. Only the station that they had on series there, the government had good water, and they were siphoning the water. They had to sell water on the black market, bro. Like it was insane. And they had it's not like the Earth didn't have the means to help. They did, but they just didn't. It was insane to me because these people that are growing up in low G, their spines don't form properly, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right? And all these different things that happen to Belters. So I understand where they were coming from. Did all of them make good choices? No. That's why somebody like Marco could rise to the fame that he did and essentially became the next Hitler, right? Committed genocide on a scale ridiculous. Millions of people died on Earth from the Stone Throne and all of these different things. So the political intrigue and the overarching story of this, and what I enjoyed about it, that was the most enjoyable part of it for me. And the reason is because I was just rooting and waiting for the day when they all came together for a single purpose, which they did. It's what I was hoping for, and it's what I got from the story, and I was very, very happy about it, right? So, not to harp on that too long, right? I think I've spoken enough about that part of the story. Let's talk about the characters, what I enjoyed about it. I'm going to talk about a few characters that I believe is in my top 5 characters of The Expanse. That's going to be Miller, James, of course, Holden, Bobby, Christian, and the fifth one is this is probably going to be a weird pick. It's probably going to be a weird pick. I know you guys are waiting in anticipation, right? Of who my top 5 characters in the show is, right? I'm gonna say them again, right? You already know who it is, man. You don't have to ask. You know who it is. You know it's my girl, Drummer, right? It's Kamina, Bobby, Miller, James, and of course, the one and only Christian, right? These 5 characters is what I want to talk about in this section because they mean so much over the story, in my opinion. There were other characters that impacted the story overall, especially Naomi. She would be an honorable mention if I should talk about Naomi. She would be an honorable mention, you know, outside of the top 5, right? Let's talk about James first. James Holden. Story began with him, it ended with him. He's the most impactful character overall in the story, because when you are built to be the hero, or I should say when you're called to be the hero, you just have to be the hero. And sometimes when you're in that position, James as a character reminds me of what fathers should be. It's a thankless job, but you're called to do it, right? That's what he reminds me of. That's not to say that he's a dad in the show or anything like that. I'm just saying that's what dads are called to do. Be the heroes. Or you could say overall men in general, right? But fathers especially are called to be heroes, and they don't have a choice in the matter, right? Yes, there's a lot of deadbeat dads out there, and that's why they're called deadbeats, right? But I'm talking about the ones who truly takes up the mantle and be great fathers, heroes to their children, to their family, to people around them. That's what I'm saying. And this goes for women too, right? So overall, what I'm saying is that when you're called to be special, it's not a choice. The situations just always arise. They just always arise. I hate to be doing this stupid thing I'm doing right now, but situations just always arise where you have to pick up the sword again and go to battle. And that's what he represented in the show. That's why, to me, is the most impactful character in the show overall. From everything that he went through, losing the Cant, losing everybody that was on the Cant. It was about to be, they were asking him to be, the captain? I don't remember exactly what the position was. I think it was the captain. Ended up with the Martian vessel that became the Rocinante. Like everything that he did, the respect that he gained from everybody over time. At first, they didn't fuck with him that heavy, you know, but they became a family overall. And, you know, making those decisions, know when to lead, how to lead, all of these different things was James personified. That was him. That's what he represented to me. If you have other thoughts about this character, please put them in the comment section. If you have other thoughts about James Holden and what he represented for the series, maybe you have a more paragraphed thing you can write. But let's move on here. We've talked about James. Now let's talk about Miller for a little bit. Miller. A character that I definitely had a lot of respect for. Just you know, what he represented in season 1 and then came back in, is it 3 or 4? I think it was season 4 that he came back as, you know, the projection in James' mind, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But overall, just the season 1 to mid-season 2 presence when he died with Julie. Of course, we all know the kiss was weird. You know what I'm saying? The kiss was, as you guys have told me in the comment section on YouTube, was that wasn't in the script. It was improvised by the two actors. They just made the scene weird, because I was just like, you fell in love with somebody you didn't know, and then Julie just met you. But I will give you guys that some people have explained it to understand the relationship, the love story, as I dubbed it, was just like, it fell flat for me. It felt weird to me at the time. But since the episode has came out on YouTube, people has told me that what they got from it was essentially, if I should actually pull up the comment, because there's a lot here, right? Some people were explaining it as they were hints and clues that Julie was kind of like communicating with Miller in a way, leading him to her. And just to put the comment in a nutshell, and really and truly, if you watch the show over and over again, that statement can definitely be factual, right? It can definitely be factual, no matter how you cut it. But it still wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't done very well, right? And it didn't impact the story as much. Some people were telling me I need to bring tissues for that episode, and I was just like, what was I going to cry about? You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I wasn't ever looking at these two as lovers lost. They didn't know each other. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of weird, right? At the end, the kiss didn't mean anything. Like, they finally connected. They're going to die together, you know? And she just wanting to go home, right? So overall, we're not necessarily here to talk about that, but I did want to address that a little bit. Miller's character, I think his first name is not James too, right? It's like John, right? His first name is John. I think it's John Miller, right? So Miller, the type of person that he was, never left series, first time off of series, you know what I'm saying? Went to Arrows, and then they had to save Arrows. Damn near got cancer from Arrows, him and James. And his character arc meant so much for the story overall, because of what he wanted to do. Yes, he made some very erratic decisions, don't get me wrong. You know, killing the mad scientist, you know, I get it, why he did it, but at the same time, it was just like, man, this man has so much knowledge, we could have learned so much from him. So it's a toss up. It's a toss up at the same time. So it was just certain things that he did just made his character so much more troubling. He was a troubled character, damn near from he got the assignment to find Julie till, up to the end. I mean, I didn't talk about it during the episode because actually when James said the question that he answered, and it's like he regretted that he didn't give Miller a better answer when he asked the question. Is just like, what does rain taste like? I think it was taste like, right? Not feel like. It was taste like. It's like, what does rain taste like? And his answer was nothing. And it's a very, very important question in the story because it calls back to a lot of things. It was a question that was asked earlier in the series. I think it was in season 1, because when I was editing the episodes for YouTube, I realized that this question is a very important question for the character. Multiple times he asked it, I think 2 or 3 times. I think it was 2 times. It's also referring to the fact that series doesn't, you know what I'm saying? They're over there dying of thirst, and you can't even steal the water. I remember one time he was showering and the water turned off. Right? It's such a nuanced thing that they just poked in there. Right? That meant so much. I wanted to take the time to talk about it because I was talking about it with somebody else as well. I was like, but I don't know if they really got what I was trying to say or they just kind of moved past it, because sometimes there's deeper meaning in stuff, or that kind of like, foreshadows a lot of things that happens in the story just from that question. The amount of things that it could mean or relating to. And that's why I love how they wrote this story. I love how they write the character development and stuff like that. Because stuff that you'll be watching in like the later seasons, there's callbacks to stuff that been happening since season 1. And that's how you know that your writers are paying attention and all that stuff didn't just happen for a reason. They mentioned Marco back in the first season. It's a lot of stuff that was mentioned, a lot of facial expression towards certain things. I remember when Naomi told when I don't remember who asked her the question, but somebody asked her if she had kids, and she said, it's either she said no or she didn't answer. I think it was when they were trying to get out of Eros, and she was, I don't remember, man. If you guys remember the exact scene, right? I didn't even, when the whole thing with Philip came up and all this other stuff, I wasn't even remembering that she asked Fred to find him, to do something for her, to find someone for her. I didn't even remember that while I was watching the show. So there's a lot of things that was leaving little breadcrumbs here and there for certain things. Her facial expression when she was supposed to destroy the proto-molecule and she didn't. Like, when I'm editing the episodes, I'm like, man, Naomi was really not on board with anything since they got to Tycho Station. She was not on board with pretty much anything. And her facial expressions was showing us that she was all for the belt. She was your typical belter that was just felt like they need to get a hand up in this faction, and she didn't have no love for Earthers either. And maybe that's the reason why she treated James like that from the get-go. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she did find out that he was the one that answered the message, but at the same time, there was some Earther, I don't want to say hate, but dislike, you know what I'm saying, from that time. So just the way how they write certain characters, you can really navigate around and see that they really do the callbacks for the characters and the character development and stuff like that. So Miller, man, just a really good character for the show. All right, number 3. I do want to leave Bobby for last. I'm gonna talk about Bobby, my girl Bobby, last, right? So let's talk about, who was it? Christian. Let's talk about Christian, then I'll talk about who is it? Then I'm talking about Christian, then I'll talk about drummer, then I'll talk about Bobby. Okay, Christian. We're 2 hours into this. Okay, I told you guys it was gonna be long, so strap in, right? Christian, what a character. I can't say enough because I never I want to say in the first season I didn't really like her because of the decisions that she made. She made a decision. She lied and got her friend killed, right? She got her friend's husband killed, I believe it was. Yes, right? And she got her friend in trouble as well. And at that point I was like, man, you can't, it's like anything for Earth, huh? Anything for Earth. She was willing to do that. But then her character started changing. And I believe her character started changing when she met Bobby. I think that's when I really started to like Christian. And I was like, do the damn thing, right? She really became this character that I was like, man, I wish leaders of nations was like this, was not just ready to just jump into war. I love when she walked out of the room and be like, I resign. You're not gonna listen to me? I just lost my husband too in this genocide from Marcos, and I'm still here sitting here saying we can't just retaliate against Belters like this, right? I was like, that's my girl, right? So overall, a lot of things that I wanted, I got, because when stories are being told in a certain way, you can tell the direction that it's going. It's just that, are the writers gonna give it to you or not? I've read all of these, so many different stories. There's only so many ways that you can tell stories. It's not very hard. It's not easy. Not very hard. It's not very easy to surprise me when it comes on to stories, and that's why I can tell you when something is very predictable and it's just not my taste, right? I can tell you that these things are going to happen, and when they go against when they go against the grain, that's when I'm like out of my seat. That's when I'm like, yo, that's when I'm going crazy. That's when I'm going to get up and react crazy like the rest of the YouTubers, because if you're going with the grain, and I can tell where you're going with the story, it's not exciting for me. I'll still watch it and say it's a decent show, but it's not exciting. I can give you guys an example of me reacting to something that was just so out of pocket and unexpected in a show that I'm watching currently on Patreon that I didn't expect with the show. I'll tell you guys the show and the episode so that you're not like spoiled, just in case you've never seen the show before or you're watching it currently. I'll give you 2 examples. I'm watching The Boys right now. Season 1, episode 8. One of the most unexpected things. I thought I had that show down pat. I knew what it was about, what it's going to do, where we're going. Was very predictable until season 1, episode 8, the final episode of the season. I'll also give you guys another example. Season 2, episode 8 of The 100, right? Totally just changed everything for me on that show. When I'm talking about, I had the show as a decent show, I was enjoying it, but that episode and the choices that happened in that episode, I was like, we got one here. We got one here. You know what I'm saying? I had no doubt in my mind that that show now, I want to watch every single second, every minute of it now. And it's, as long as they don't mess it up and just go downhill with it, because it is a CW show. So it is what it is, right? They're going to have a good time. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like there are episodes that are so impactful that just changes the narrative. And I love when you do that in shows, when you have a character development that just defines the character in every single way. And that was one of those moments for Christian. She had plenty of moments when she met Bobby, when she went to the beach to meet with Bobby, and just their relationship. And I was like, I want her now, Bobby, to become Christian's bodyguard, because they developed their relationship so well in season 3, right? And just overall, that I'm like, I mean, other than the fact that I just started to, overall, that I already loved the character of Bobby from she went against the grain, beat up the priest, jumped to, you know what I'm saying, and went to the embassy and you know, seeked asylum and all this stuff. I mean, Christian had such a great character development in this story, from being a little bit softer. You know, before she wasn't smiling a lot, and she started smiling a lot, especially when she was dealing with James and the crew and Bobby and stuff like that. Yes, she still had a little bit of manipulative ways, because, you know, she's in politics. Let's just keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? And you can't just be a namby-pamby and be in politics. You will get walked all over, and you'll never win anything, and you'll never be able to, you know, people won't respect you, right? It's unfortunate that you can't be 100% real and be in politics, because there's nuance to it. There's things that you can do, and there's things that you cannot do. So you have to be able to maneuver, sometimes even past the red tape, to get things done. And there's ways to do it, and you might have to delve into some manipulative ways and stuff like that. That's why I tell you, I have no interest in politics in real life, but it intrigues me a lot to delve into it when it comes on to shows. Sometimes I will discuss politics in real life, but it's very brief conversations. I don't, you know, me and my family's not sitting down talking about Trump and all these different things. Sometimes I will ask a question and get opinions, like the upcoming election is coming this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, for what you want, you know, you want to vote or you don't want to vote. You know what I'm saying? So, and conversations might pursue, but it's not a part of my daily life like some people, right, are into that. If you're into that, you're into that. But I'd rather sit here with you guys, even on a live stream, and discuss that stuff. And it might not even be a long conversation, because when people get too attached to politics, they become very emotional. And you might say something that they disagree with, and they go overboard and start calling you names and give you death threats and all these different things. And it's just not worth it at the end of the day to have these conversations with people, because people just get way too emotional with it. It's the reason why I try not to discuss as much as possible religious things on my reactions, because it's the same reaction to a lot of the stuff, right? People won't just state their arguments and leave it at that. They will try to come at you at a certain way, you know, and then this argument pursues that is absolutely going nowhere. Right? So Christian, man, great character. As I said, my favorite moment of her is when she walked out of that war room with that new soft president that was, you know, automatically elected, because, you know, what was her name again? Gao? I think, was it Gao? I think it was Gao. Was it Gao? Tell me. I don't remember her name. I think it was Michelle Gao or something like that was her name. The one that got elected over Christian, as she died in the attack from Marco. Right? So that was my favorite moment from her in the entire series. There's other great moments that I love from her as well, but her character development throughout the series was just great. It was handled very well. I said she sounded like somebody that's been smoking her whole life. She probably did. I don't know if that's a fact about her, but she sounds like somebody. Sounds like a woman that's been smoking their entire life, probably to this day. Right? Just the way how she sounds like she smoked for a long period of time. She's probably not smoking now, but maybe that's not even the case. Maybe that's just how she sounds, and that's just how her voice sounds. But her voice does not sound naturally. It doesn't sound natural to me. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that, you know, she's a smoker. I'm putting some, like, trying to don't sue me for defamation, okay? I'm not trying to say she was a smoker or whatever. I'm just saying she sounds like somebody that has smoked a long time. You know, for all I know, she might have never been smoked. She might have never smoked ever, right? So it is what it is, right? So next character will be, of course, Kamina Drummer. Now, at the beginning of the series, I talked about Kamina, and I said I have an unnatural is not the word. I have a weird attraction to Kamina, and I don't know what is it about her that attracts me to her that well. And it's weird. It was weird to me because every time she was on screen, I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, every time she was on screen, I get a little giddy or I'm smiling. I'm like, I don't know why. And then, you know, people in the comment section was saying to me that, don't worry, bro, we're all attracted to Kamina. And it's just weird because if in real life you ask me if that's someone that I would be attracted to, it's an absolute hell no. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, what is it about the makeup she has in her shirt, or attitude, the way how she speaks. Everything is just hitting the right buttons for me. I don't know why. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Super, super attracted to her. Still don't know why to this day. All right. So, Kamina Drummer, the belter of belters is what I want to call her. The belter of belters. The best belter in the entire show. Fred was great. Dawes was kind of great. Naomi's cool. But none of them is compared to the best belter in the show, in my opinion. And that is Kamina Drummer. Kamina Drummer emanated everything that you want to know about the true soul of a drummer. True soul of a belter. That is who Kamina Drummer was. And there was nothing you can do to change that. She's stuck in her ways. You get what I'm saying? She's stuck in her ways. She stayed true to her character every single moment of time. When they were trying to take over Tycho, and dude shot her because she wouldn't give them the code. Well, he shot her because Fred wouldn't give him the codes to launch the missiles, right? And to get into the systems. And when she was rescued, she was ready. She was like, y'all not living, y'all not getting in space. I'm taking both of y'all out. Bang, bang. Straight up. And I was like, respect. You know what I'm saying? She stays true to her word, and she was a true subordinate to Fred as well. Fred trusted her with his life, I believe. So also her friend, you know what I'm saying, that died, that I didn't really trust at first, to be honest. The pirate, I really didn't trust him. It was played by one of my favorite actors too, which is like, he's the type of person like this, like, I've never seen him play. I've actually never seen him play a bad guy. You know what I'm saying? I've never seen him play. I think I did say that. And at first he was looking like a bad guy, but all he was trying to respect Kamina. He was telling his crew to respect Manny, but it's like the way how he was saying it, and it seemed like he was pretending, and he wishes that he was in Kamina's position. But when the two of them was trapped down there as well, and they had that one-on-one, and he was singing, and you know what I'm saying, and he was, you know, both of them was trying to work together to get free because they were both trapped. Remember that, you know, she got her spine got messed up, she couldn't walk, she had to regrow her spine. It was very, very interesting character, man, Kamina Drummer. And I think out of everybody that claimed that we're a belter, even Marco himself, Kamina was more of a belter because she represented everything. I'm glad that she became the representative for the belters at the table at the end. It was well deserved. I wouldn't have chosen anybody else, and she deserved to be leader of the Belter Nation, right? She deserved that. So she was an awesome character that I was attracted to and didn't know why. Right? And overall, just her character arc, her story, everything that happened to her, all the people that she lost a lot of people that was close to her, and you know what I'm saying, almost lost Naomi too. When it comes on to get down to business, you can always depend on her to be there, but she's still going to be a belter at the end of the day. You're never going to take that away from her. Even though she's been like, you know, she was coming at Naomi a bit there, you know, in a couple episodes ago. She was coming at Naomi, man, because she's like, you're with the inners, you know. And I was like, man, we need to stop all of that. You know what I'm saying? We trying to make peace here, and you know, you gotta let go of some of that hate and that resentment and all these different things, because we're setting her up for better things. And I'm glad that they were able to hash things out, and I'm glad that Christian kept saying, I cannot change the past. It happened. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, you know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we were the most perfect people ever and whatever. We know we were wrong in the past, but we're trying to move past it and move forward. And that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. So, Kamina Drummer. Good times. Now we get to Bobby. And I have to say, as I live and breathe, let me breathe into the mic real quick. Give me some of that. Yes. As the weebs would say, step on me, please. Step on me. I wouldn't go that far, but I wouldn't go that far because, you know, I like to be in the dominant position. You know what I'm saying? Bobby, holla at your boy. You know what I mean? Anyways, but I knew exactly why I was attracted to Bobby. I have, and I'm not even talking about her character. I'm just talking about my attraction to her as a woman, right? I know why I'm attracted to her, right? But I'm not going to talk about her as much as I talk about Drummer in that perspective. I'm going to talk about what she represents for the show and for me. She came in as a badass and she left as a badass. And that's the reason why I love her character so much and why I believe, in my opinion, she's my favorite character in The Expanse. It's a close tie between her and James. It's a very close tie. I would say I love them both just as much, because they represent two halves of the show. They represent two halves. It's just like some things that you can't really depend on James to do or gung-ho into, and Bobby will be like, I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? She has that attitude, and she got that from her culture. That's how she was raised. That's how she is. She's going to protect, you know, the people that can't protect themselves. And I'm glad that in the end, it was a Martian and an Earther that was working together to get shit done. You get what I'm saying? Because she was so brainwashed by the Martian culture. And don't get me wrong, they might have an inkling of reason why they have this much grudge against the Earthers and all these different things. And they've been trying to break off. Some people has mentioned that Mars was a colony before. That I didn't quite understand where this hate came from. It's just like, y'all came from Earth. What are y'all complaining about? You know what I'm saying? That was my attitude towards it. But that has changed over time, understanding, more about, what happened with Mars. They were a colony, then they had to get their independence. And if you look at history when it comes on to, colonization and then gaining independence, you know what I'm saying? Like, the thing about it is this. I'll give you guys an example of why Mars was an extreme, right? Because it doesn't always have to be that way. When Jamaica was a colony, that's where I'm from. I'm Jamaican. When Jamaica was a colony of, the UK, Great Britain, whatever you want to call them, they have so many different freaking names. England, right? When there were a lot of things that, the Jamaican dollar wasn't there, of course, so we used to use the English pound as currency. That was before independence. Believe Jamaica got independence in 1962. It's not so long ago. It's not even 100 years yet of independence. That's crazy, ain't it? And a lot of the countries that they colonized, of course, they like the Queen, but for some reason in Jamaica, everybody was cool, because it wasn't like, it wasn't tyranny. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't tyranny. So, Jamaica was glad to get independence. We celebrated every year, of course. But now look at where the country is. It's in shambles. You get what I'm saying? Jamaica is still a good country. It's just not a great country to live in because the economy is trash. It's a third world country. And I hate to talk like this about Jamaica, but it is the truth. And we state facts around here, right? It's the truth. I know people go there for vacation and they think that's all it's cracked up to be. But Jamaica ain't the greatest. It ain't the greatest. Yes, you can go there. You can have great vacations. The beaches are very nice. One thing about Jamaica that I will tell you, if I'm going back there to live, I have to have at least a cool 100 million or I just can't go back there to live. The economy is crap. So you got to have a decent amount of money, or at least have a very good income. Like nowadays, when you have so many jobs that you can do remotely, I think that would be the best way to go if you're going to live in a Caribbean country overall, right? Is to have remote work, because trust me, the work there is not going to, the sustainability is not, at least if you want nice things. Let me put it like that into context, because if you want nice things, if I could, the way how I live here in America, I could never live like that in Jamaica, working there, doing the same thing. Okay. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's how bad the economy is. You can't really afford nice things. Well, if you don't care about that, absolutely. But I care. I like to have nice things. I like that nice things are available to me at the drop of a hat, even if I don't want it at the current moment. Like anything that I want, I can just go on Amazon and order it. I can't do that in Jamaica. I can order stuff here, get it in a couple of days. I can't do that in Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? Even if I had the money to do it, you just can't do it that way. So it's just a different type of living that you would have to be okay with, right? So if you are planning a trip to live in Jamaica, because it's so nice, so breezy, and the countryside is so nice and cool, and all that stuff is all the stuff that I love about Jamaica too. But remember that if you're planning to spend a long period of time there, as in years, be ready. Make sure you have the money to live there. That was a side story, but I wanted to talk about that situation and compare it to Mars and the indoctrination that they do to the generations that come up and down. We saw the fight that happened on the ship, between Bobby and her crew, and she just constantly wants to go to war and just go against Earthers because you know what I'm saying, like all these different things, right? And you saw when it was the right thing to do when it comes on to her friend. I think it was Travis was the name that they used as a scapegoat because they were trying to buy time to buy the proto-molecule project from Mao. And when she surrendered and seeked asylum, you know what I'm saying, at the UNN embassy, whatnot, and she went and she told Christian about everything. That's when I really, really like those couple of episodes where she went to the beach. Christian told her the truth. She didn't quite believe it. She thought it was a trick, and then she went beat up the pastor for him to tell him the truth, and he finally folded, which is just like, you're worse than Bobby. You know what I'm saying? This whole time you were talking about how Bobby is this, insubordinate and all these different things because, she spoke the truth when she was asking questions and y'all didn't want her to tell the truth and all these different things. And all it took was a couple of punches to your face and you fessed up. You piece of... You're worse than her. Right? You're worse than her. Even. You're worse than her, you piece of dog doo-doo. Now that I'm like recollecting that moment, that's insane to me. How can... It's insane to me that people think that they could just do stuff like that and just get away with it. It's insane. I was glad that she punched him in the face. Way how he was treating her too, and not telling her the truth, hiding behind, Mars this and Mars can't afford this incident right now and all this other stuff, hiding behind all of that, hiding behind even more lies. It was strange to me. It was very strange to me, but they were doing it. So when it comes on to Bobby's character and all the things that I was wishing for her working with Christian, she went on a whole mission with her. And then I wanted her to stay there. Then I was also wanting her to become a part of Rossi, which she ended up doing in the final season anyway. So I still got that. So Bobby was just an exceptional character. Everything that she stood for when she became a part of the crew. You know what I'm saying? The final mission that we just watched there, man. Like the whole time I'm sitting here, I was like, don't kill Bobby, please. Don't kill her. That would have broken me. That would have broken me. Sometimes I cry for finales, but it's for specific reasons or something that's happening. I didn't want that to happen because I wanted the Expanse to end, and there's no tears. I think I cried last season. I think I cried at the end of last season. So there were some tears. The stuff that Naomi was going through really got to me, man. It really got to me. And when they rescued her and then Alex died, Alex is another honorable mention as well. But I don't want to, think about it, I don't want this video to be a 4-hour video of me just talking about characters. And that's why I chose those 5. Well, not the main reason. They're still my top 5, but overall, I just wanted to talk about those characters because they meant so much to me during the story. Overall, just everything about Bobby just exudes excellence and just greatness to me. And she was like, anything that James won't do, I'm ready to jump into action. And she was ready to just put herself in harm's way to just get things done. Clarissa might be another honorable mention as well. Wow, what a character arc she has. She probably has the best. Do you guys think I'll pose this question to you guys. Does she have the best redemption story in the series? Because I believe she does. Clarissa, I'm talking about. I think she has the best redemption story in the series. You know what I'm saying? I think she does. Of somebody who was just trying to that's coming from the dark. Amos going, essentially rescue her, her becoming a member of the crew and stuff like that. There's so many characters that could be honorable mentions in the show. I'm not even gonna waste my time talking about Marco Inaros, because I'm glad to know that Philip got off the ship though, because I was thinking that when Marco was dying, when going through the ring or whatever happened there, we know he died, but that's the implication, right? Was that he died. I was thinking, what if Philip got off the ship? I was thinking it, but I didn't think it was actually happening, because I was when Naomi shouted out, I was like, okay, they're confirming that Philip is dead. Because I was like, the way how he was looking, they didn't show that scene until the end where he got off, but I was thinking it in my mind, because this would be a great time for Philip to get off the ship. Everybody's busy, he's disagreeing with everything that is going on. You know what I'm saying? One of the people that was looking out for him just died, and Marco didn't even give a shit, because as I said, Marco is your classic sociopath personality, just gaslighting people whenever he can, has a lot of narcissistic tendencies and stuff like that. So it's like, he doesn't really care about anybody but himself. He thinks the world revolves around him, and he uses other things around him as an excuse, because he knows that if he doesn't do that, ain't nobody gonna follow you if you don't say and do those things. Meanwhile, in your heart of hearts, you don't give a shit about these people, but he knows what he's doing. So I don't want to waste any time talking about him. Philip got off good. I think maybe he pops back up later in the future, or Naomi must find out that he survived at some point. I believe the Expanse will come back at some point. As I said, the story and overall character arcs and everything for this gets a 10 out of 10 for me. Therefore, every category got 10 out of 10. So therefore, the Expanse get a 10 out of 10 from me. This was an excellent watch, guys. People has been asking me to watch the Expanse for about 3 years now. It is not some new thing. Finally, somebody came over on the Patreon at the top tier and suggested it, and I was like, okay, it's time. And now it's over, and I'm a little sad. The Expanse, wow, 10 out of 10 show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you guys watched the entire review. Okay, because I know some people, they will tune out and be like, man, why is he rambling on? I do this in a lot of ways to avoid copyright on my channel, because I know I show a lot more of the show than I should, right? That's because of how I edit my videos and stuff like that. I also offer full reactions over on Patreon for free for the show, so to provide context and stay toe the line of fair use, I try to do reviews and stuff like that to make the content a lot more transformative and different and commented on, and and having a disagreement with what's happening or whatever the situation, just discussing it to total line of fair use. So and it was warranted as well. I told you guys I do long reviews overall to make it better for all of you guys, so you can have my perspective in full. Also, do not forget, guys, make sure you have notifications turned on. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, because we will be having a live discussion of the Expanse coming up in a few days. So make sure you have those turned on, so once I send the once I tell you guys that I'm doing the live, make sure you're prepared to do it. I will schedule it so that you can remain in waiting for when I start, but at least you'll know when I'm going to do it, so you can be ready to come on and talk with your boy. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much. I appreciate y'all, man. Leave a like, leave a comment. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to the Screaming Firehawks for coming over and supporting these videos as they were going on. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys for the next one. I'm out. Peace.